was fucking weird, okay? Oh god. Summerhill Cinema 700 here. Coming at you with a review of a very cool film here by Dick Moss from 1988 titled Amsterdamned. Not Amsterdam, Amsterdamned. Yes, be afraid. It means you're still alive. So I had never seen this film before until today, and I had watched lots of trailers on it because I heard about Blue Underground doing a release on this film, and when I heard they were doing a release, that was the first time I'd ever heard anything about this movie. And when I saw the title artwork, I just thought, that looks interesting. Saw a trailer for it on the computer, and I just thought, that is definitely a movie for me. Pre-ordered this without even really knowing a ton about it, and I watched it for the first time today, and I got to say, wow, I really did enjoy this. I'm just going to get right into the plot here. I have it. I'm going to read it off this for a second off this screen here. Just so I get everything in order, it'll be a little bit easier for me. Okay, so, and again, I said it's from 1988, and it's a Dutch film. And we're just going to start right off the bat here with the plot of the film. Opening in a point of view, a murderer looks around the city of Amsterdam at night through the canals the city is famous for. He sneaks into a Chinese restaurant's back door and steals a butcher knife while the cooks aren't looking. It's like this Asian cookhouse. The killer finds his first victim as a local prostitute who, after refusing advances from a cab driver, gets thrown out of the cab. Basically, this prostitute lady, she's walking around in a leopard kind of skin outfit, walking around. Cab driver picks her up to take her back to her place, and he's like, "Get down, do what you're supposed to do." Takes her head, ready for a blowjob, and she throws her out of the taxi, as I just read. A bag lady watches from a distance as the killer plunges the knife into the hooker and drags her into the water, and you see the scene from a distance where he's stabbing her with the knife. The next morning, a tour boat on the canal collides with the body of the prostitute who has been hung on one of the smaller bridges. As the tourists scream, the body drags on top of the boat until an opening shows her bloodied body and face. And that's a pretty interesting scene, pretty gory scene. They're going under the bridge. You see the body hanging, and then it goes under. It's dragging along the top of the boat. It's like this see-through tour boat. It has this glass on top, and the blood's dragging along, and there's like these nuns, and they're like that, It's... assigned to the case is Detective Eric Visser. That's who we meet, who's probably the main... Well, the killer would be the main character, but this is the guy who we see the most, is Eric Visser, this detective. A hard-boiled detective who is raising his 13-year-old daughter, Anneke, after a split from his ex. He spends an hour in a bath, comes home late from work, and tends to drink now and again. Nevertheless, Eric is praised as one of the best detectives on the force. His partner, Vermeer, meets Eric at the site where the body was found with fellow cop Potter, attempting to get through the bag lady, who tells Eric that it was a monster who killed the prostitute and that it came out of the water. Again, the bag lady, she says, "Oh, this black monster came out and dragged her into the water," and they're thinking, "Oh, she's kind of a loony bin." That night, two environmentalists are taking water samples in an ongoing investigation against a nearby chemical plant. However, when the killer emerges, one of the men is taken underwater, and when his partner attempts to grab the anchor, he is horrified to find the man's head on the anchor, and it's pretty neat. He pulls up the anchor, and there's the head on the anchor. Scared, the surviving environmentalist swims to the nearby shore and calls for help when he sees a truck pass by. As the truck driver comes out from a distance, the killer grabs the environmentalist and drags him back into the water. And yeah, you just see the scene where he gets pulled back into the water, almost like that scene from The Slayer, where the guy gets dragged into the water by the fishing hook, but he's just on the beach and you just see him, whoa, get dragged off in the water. So yeah, almost that scene's a bit like The Slayer. Pretty cool scene though. When Eric and Vermeer see the bodies of the environmentalists, he is convinced that there is a serial killer. Eric runs into John, an old friend from the police academy. John works for the River Police, and we learn that Eric's ex-girlfriend used to date John before Eric stole her from him. When John asks about what happened, John and Eric renew their friendship and are now partners on the case to find the killer. And again, his friend, this detective friend, John, he's a diver, and that's what he does. He's a police officer that is a diver police officer, goes on those types of investigations, I guess, that require underwater diving. During a search at a local sporting club, Eric meets Laura, a museum guide as well as Martin Ruisdael, a former diver. And yeah, he's doing this search. It says at a local sporting club, but he's basically searching for evidence at a diving shop. That's a club as well for divers, and he meets this girl who he likes, and then the guy, former diver turned psychiatrist, and he's also Laura's doctor, the lady. Eric begins to have eyes for Laura, and she begins to like him too. Meanwhile, that night, a Salvationist and a young woman on a gunboat the next day are the next victims of the killer. And we see this lady, she's just asking for donations from the Salvation Army. Some guys give her some money and bills, and she just pockets it in her pocket. It's pretty funny. But she ends up being the next victim. She's just riding her bike, and she gets pulled into the canal. As Eric begins to get frustrated with nothing turning up, he and John eventually think they find a suspect in a former chemical plant employee known for his violent outbursts. When the suspect is caught, Eric begins to have doubts when he sees Laura that night. A skipper at the nearby dock is the killer's next victim with the boat sinking. And this guy isn't basically in his boat. This is the next kill that we get. He's just chilling out, drinking a whole bunch of liquor. And we see his rope get cut by the knife. And then his boat starts going off. Water starts pouring in his boat. He starts sinking. He grabs his gun, basically, and then he just sinks. We presume that he's drowned. As Eric begins to get frustrated with nothing turning up, he and John eventually... Oh, sorry, I already read that. John decides to go underwater and investigate the next day, the diver guy, his friend. At first, he finds the skipper's body, but as he approaches out of the skipper's sunken boat, the killer emerges, and a tussle leaves John slashed and killed, so he kills the diver under the water while he's searching this boat and finds the man's body who drowned in the boat. Eric arrives to hear the bad news about John. When the killer is located at a marina, a speedboat chase ensues between Eric and the killer, and we get this really awesome boat chase, and it's like fucking Miami Vice meets like horror meets like, I don't even know. It's just like Mission Impossible. I know. It's great though. This boat chase is so awesome, and it's through the canals, and again it's the killer and Eric, the detective. Eric eventually tracks the killer to a local sewer, only to be shot at close range in the shoulder with a harpoon gun. When the killer attempts a coup de grace, Eric shoots the mask before waking up in the hospital. I don't know what that attempts a coup de grace, what the hell that means. When Laura goes to her appointment and finds Martin isn't home, again her psychiatrist, that guy who Eric met, she stays, but hears a noise in Martin's underwater basement. She finds the broken mask and thinks Martin is the killer because, Eric shot the guy's mask and it broke. So she thinks the psychiatrist is this killer. An attempt to call Eric fails when he is still unconscious. Of course, Eric is in the hospital at this point because he's been shot. When he awakens, the nurse tells him of Laura, and both he and Vermeer head to Martin's house. Martin arrives and waits for Laura, only to hear a sound in the basement. Laura confronts him, the psychiatrist, and beats the shit out of him with a paddle. However, the killer comes out of the water and grabs Laura. Eric arrives in time and shoots the killer. Martin finally confesses that the killer is a childhood friend of his, so the psychiatrist says he knows who he is a fellow diver who was shunned by society after a commercial diving job caused him to be disfigured by uranium hexafluoride poisoning. The killer arrives at his home where he reveals himself and decides to take his own life before the police arrive. And we see his face, and it's kind of like this disfigured face, almost like a Jason Voorhees, not as bad, but pretty disfigured. And he takes the spear gun, shoots himself in the fucking head, and then they arrive and find him dead. And then we just see, Eric and Laura, his girlfriend, just chilling out in the Amsterdam Canal, and then the movie ends, and we go up in this nice panoramic shot of the canals, and we get the theme song that I was playing at the start. So, I think this movie is really cool. It has great cinematography. All the scenes are filmed very well. Great stunts, great stunt coordination done in this film. We have motorcycle chases, we have the boat chase, we have police cars racing around these small, narrow streets, jumping up in the air. So it's really a unique film. And I think Dick Moss said he wanted this film not to be a horror, but an action with slasher elements, and that's definitely what it is. We don't see a ton of the kills and a ton of gore, but we kind of see just the aftermath of what the killer did to the people. I think that this is just a really cool film, and I think it's very unique. I don't think there's any other film out there like this, and if there is, I'm not aware of it. But I think Amsterdam is really cool, and this Blue Underground Blu-ray here is just fantastic. We get audio commentary, the making of Amsterdam, Tales from the Canal, Dutch trailer, all these trailers, bonus collectible booklet. We get the music video for that Amsterdam theme song I was playing at the start, and we get the Blu-ray and a DVD. There's the booklet. We get reversible artwork, and yeah, I definitely recommend this movie. You guys check this out if you're fans of horror. Just buy this even as a blind buy. I'm sure that you guys will enjoy it. It's really cool. Like I said, it's like Miami Vice meets horror, but it's just so cool because you get your horror elements, you get your kind of slasher elements, and then you get a ton of awesome action as well. And it's done in a very unique way, you know, as the diver being the killer in this film. And hopefully I didn't miss anything. I think that's all there is to say. This is a really cool movie, and I highly recommend you guys check it out. Thank you for watching this review. I give this film 2 thumbs up. Go check out Amsterdam. Also, the score and the music in it is really cool and well done and stuff. So everything about this film is 2 thumbs up in my mind. Go check out Amsterdamned.